I'm just a bill up on Capitol Hill. And I'm saying this because we ain't doing well. They trying to get this bill that is gonna make Israel real strong, and it's called Bill 4784. And I don't sing anymore.
Have you heard about the S-4784 bill? The one where it's going to combine the Israel military and the United States government military? Well, you should stay tuned to figure out more about how this bill takes you into a whole rabbit hole. Welcome back to the Hinge Show. Let's get started. First off, I just want to say it is honestly shocking and surprising that a bill has a bunch of other bills within it, which we're supposed to have certain policies on and be against, but it's like there's rules, and then guess what? People just don't follow them, I guess, is how we do it here in America. Well, this bill is 1,500 pages long, over 1,500. And like, who do they expect to read all of it? And which they should, but they are human as well, congressmen and women, senators, politicians, and they don't have time to read a 1,500 page bill, not all the time, but again, they should. But it's like they're already so overloaded. And, I'm not saying I have 100% sympathy for all of them and what they do, but this was just really shocking to me after I started reading some of the information about how the Israeli government was going to be now tied with America's government. And there are many different news article or news channels talking about this, from the Gazette, the Guardian, and military.com, also even the Human Rights Watch. All of these news channels are discussing this bill because of how important it is. So this bill discusses, and it states in section 1216, modification of United States-Israel cooperation to counter unmanned systems in all war domains. And then in section 1217, United States-Israel framework for upgraded technologies, unified research, and enhanced security. And it also states something about this in the before pages in this bill, talking about the Futures Act of 2026. Now, this was something that was proposed in February of 2026, which I find odd because the Futures Act is where it establishes a new U.S. Israel Defense Technology Cooperation Initiative between the U.S. and Israel. And I know that there's been a lot of talk about Israel. And when I'm saying Israel, I'm talking about the Israeli administration, their government, not specifically Jewish people, which it seems unnecessary to even have to present that information. But now, since they want to label everyone as anti Semitic for noticing truths and making observations, then I guess you're just a name. And really, that's what they seem to always do. And yes, I say they, meaning the people, the shadow government, the neocon Zionists, anyone that is honestly opposed to you opposing their viewpoints. So, as I mentioned in all of those previous news channels posting an article about this topic, most of them kept referring to Section 219. And mind you, I went and looked in Section 219. I could not find what it was talking about, where they're trying to combine Israel and the United States military, which I was able to find eventually in this bill. But mind you, like I said, that was section 1216 and 1217. Also, there should be an option on your phone if you're looking at the Chrome browser, and you can search for find in this document, and you can see it will take you directly to the section 1217 or 1216. That way you can get to it faster and not have to worry so much about looking around. Although there are so many rabbit holes left to dive into with this article, or sorry, this bill. So this is a bill that to me just feels unconstitutional, which they seem to keep passing or attempting to pass bills like this. And the reason I say this is because we're supposed to uphold the Constitution. Like when you sign to join the military, you make an oath to defend the Constitution, not defend another nation's military, especially a foreign nation that has no constitution. And then we're supposed to either be in cahoots with their military or getting research and sharing research development and information from someone else's military, when again it's a military who hasn't had honestly the best track record, from the cases such as Jonathan Pollard espionage affair to the many front wars, and then to the what people consider, anyone who has eyes to see and critical thinking to observe, the genocide that happened in Gaza. And regardless of everyone's belief on whether this was a reasonable level of retaliation, when are civilians ever supposed to be just completely bombed like that in war? Don't think so. And so the reason this is a concerning bill is because now we are going to be paired militarily with a government that is like that has already been a spy, where we're already becoming aware of so many of the Mossad schemes, where on a 60-minute clip you have Mossad saying that this is their world, or I guess you could say their stage. The world is their stage. And so from the Mossad agents to them being so corrupt and so many ties to Israel being in our government, again, this isn't anti Jewish, this is anti Israeli government that seems to be satanic, even though they're supposed to be God's chosen people, which goes back to what John Coleman is saying in his book on one of the 21-point plans to destroy the America, the nation. It's to intentionally bring forth this propaganda campaign that God's chosen people are the Israelites, and they're going to gaslight you. And that's really what it's happening today. And I'm going to further more about that point on Friday's video. But what I wanted to talk about in about this bill a little bit more before I bring forth a solution, which is a way that you all could get involved and make change, instead of just sitting back and just being a pessimist and saying, oh man, this sucks. Well, how about we all get involved and actually pressure the senators and or the House of Representative members? And mind you, I didn't know that there was like two House of Representatives. It's a bit confusing. There is the federal House of Representatives and then the state House of Representatives. The federal House of Representatives has 435 voting members. Colorado has 8 representatives. And then the state House of Representatives, I'm not even going to get into that just because it's not necessarily relevant for this. So just know that once it passes the Senate, it will go to federal House of Representatives. And that's what's important, which that's a lot of people to convince either yay or nay on this bill, or to try to urge them to vote or amend certain sections in this bill. So, mind you, I am in Colorado right now, so I will be giving the senator information for Colorado. But I think it's important for everyone to go to congress.gov and look up the senator that will be able or eligible to vote on this bill. And the senator that was the sole sponsor of this bill, with the $1.5 trillion Department of Defense, which I thought it was called Department of War, but they put Department of Defense in here, which is kind of weird. Again, it just so confusing. And they need to get up to date. Come on, it's 2026 now. So this guy is Roger Wicker, and he was the sole sponsor of this. What I find interesting is his statement on Instagram 4 days ago, so on the 4th of July, and he's talking about our founders, and he says, quote, when our founders affixed their signatures to the Declaration of Independence in 1776, it was far from certain that the fledgling country would endure. They would be amazed to see us now. For 250 years, Americans have set aside July 4th to celebrate the freedoms for which those men pledged their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. As we mark this year's historic anniversary, we have so much to appreciate. We all bear a solemn responsibility to follow in our founders' footsteps, extending this legacy of freedom to the coming generations. So, this senator is from Mississippi, and honestly, he is just kind of backwards. It's interesting how he's talking about the founders, yet he is the one who sponsored a bill like this that would be advocating for the ties of military in Israel to the military in the United States. Which, again, when the servicemen and women of this country sign an oath to defend the Constitution, it's to defend the American U.S. Constitution, not to sit here and defend or even be at the behest or protect another nation. And that's any nation, for a matter of fact, not just Israel, even though Israel has a checkered past and background, even just in the recent last 5 years. So it is not really a country, a foreign nation we are to trust, and we are called to defend our nation from foreign and domestic threats. And so it's like it seems a little bit of both right now, where that is a foreign threat, but also domestically because people within this country are in cahoots with foreign nations trying to bring this country down. And the next interesting part that Senator Roger Wicker says on his website, he says, quote, "I want our nation to remain the strongest, freest, and most prosperous place on earth. I will always stand for policies that expand our economy, protect our homeland, defend our Constitution, and improve the quality of life for all Americans." So it's interesting because is this really a bill that is going to help expand our economy? No, it's $1.5 trillion on the taxpayer. And then it's like, is it going to protect our homeland? No, it seems like it's actually allowing a foreign nation to infiltrate. Is it defending our Constitution? No, because it's causing the men and women of the country to potentially break the Constitution. And is it improving the quality of life for all Americans? Again, no, because that bill is, and along with what we've already seen, the attacks when anyone says that what I'm saying right now, you're an anti-Semite or you're anti-Jew, when really you're just stating a fact and having critical thinking. Again, we have been blessed by God to have the ability to critically think, so why not state those observations out loud while we still can? So that was my little rant and side quest about the sponsor of this bill. But then I will say yet again that the date that this bill is planned to be considered on the floor, the Senate floor, is July 14th, 2026. But now this takes me to the solution to the problem, or at least some kind of participation in the solution to the problem. Well, there was a former congressman, Dennis, not even going to try to pronounce his last name. You can see his face here and look it up for yourself. I'm just horrible with names. I'm sorry. But anyway, he said that men and women of the country, this is where you can get involved on a local level and actually advocate to your senator members or House of Representative members and pressure them to sign or to not sign off on a bill, to amend or not amend a bill. And this would be one of those instances where I would highly recommend anyone who has the spare time to reach out to their local senators. I have reached out to one of the Colorado senators that will be eligible to vote on this bill. The first one is Michael Bennet, and I will show you his information here. I have yet to email him, but I will. I have already emailed the second senator, which of Colorado, which will be John Hickenlooper. See, I'm just like, this is so weird. Last names are weird. So, John, the senator for Colorado, he is also another individual, and I did propose a letter to him. And I do want to share it with you all because I do think it's important, because this is something that you could even potentially say yourself if you agree with what I am saying in this video. Again, but I do ask or urge you to go look at this information yourself and not just take my word for it. That's why I usually show the sources on the screen in the first place, because it's hard to trust anyone. Everyone's being scammy and just trying to get money. And it's like, I'm just saying this because I care about the country, and it's getting crazy. And I do think that many of these things are going to lead to some signs of violence, and I don't want that. So this is what I wrote, and will write to both of these, but this was the first one I sent to John. If you're wanting assistance on what you should say to your senator, how you can make a difference, well, this is how. And if you need any help, comment below, because I am actually willing to help the best I can. Although Google, it can be your best friend sometimes, Google or AI, sadly. But either way, I look forward to people reaching out in the comments or even personal messaging me. That way, we can make a difference, not just here in Colorado, but to other states, because here is a list of senators who have already advocated against the bill. So if you're in states like these, I think it would be wise for you to reach out to your senators and show them that you're supporting what they're doing and that they are not for this bill. So I hope you all enjoy this video. I hope you enjoy your weekend or your week. And I look forward to following this a little more closely, because this is something pretty serious. I really hope that we do not integrate our military with any other foreign nation. Again, any, not Israeli, just any. So, with that being said, I'm out of here, guys. Have a great week.